I'm Idalia Pontevera, part of the staff. We are just waiting a little bit on Antonio to see if we can start. Oh, there we go. Oh, okay. So my camera was corrected. Thank you.
Good morning, Mrs. Vera.
Hi.
Hi, can we request access to Wilmary Bruno? She's from Luma. She would like access to present or share documents.
Okay. What is her name?
Wilmary Bruno.
Wilmary Bruno.
Okay.
Okay. Let me see if we can work that out.
Thank you.
Gerardo Santiago will take care of that. This is Commissioner Torres.
So I just need to know where, if everybody's here. Well, no, yeah, we're still waiting for Wilmary. Okay.
Dali, Wilmary Bruno está conectada. ¿A quién estás esperando?
Let's see. So let's start. Okay, so let's gonna start this virtual technical conference. So good morning, everybody. My name is Idalia Ponte, and I'm part of the staff of the Energy Bureau of the Puerto Rico Public Service Regulatory Board. It's 10:04 a.m. and Tuesday, June 24, 2025, and we are starting this virtual technical conference regarding case number NEPR-MI-2020-0001 in reference to the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority's permanent rate. So we want to welcome all the representatives from Luma and their consultants that are here. I don't know if the Office of the Independent Consumer Protection, the OIPC, are here, but if they are, welcome also. And we also want to welcome all the participants that are joining us today and those that are utilizing our live YouTube channel. So this virtual technical conference is being recorded in audio and video formats through the Microsoft Teams platform and is streamed live via our YouTube channel. A copy of the recorded video and audio will be available on the Energy Bureau's website. This morning, we are joined by Associate Commissioners Lilian Mateo.
Good morning.
Ferdinand Ramos Soegard.
Good morning.
Silvia Ugarte Araujo.
Good morning.
And Antonio Torres Miranda.
Buenos días.
We are also be joined by our consultant, Ralph Smith, and who will be leading this conference. So a little bit of the background of why we are here today. On May 31st, 2025, Luma filed before the Energy Bureau of the Puerto Rico Public Service Regulatory Board a motion submitting the reconciliations of the factors and EE program cost and proposed factors, and requested obviously for confidential treatment and with the Excel spreadsheet. Then on June 16, 2025, Luma filed before the Energy Bureau a document titled Motion Submitting the Factors Reconciliations for March through May 2025, an updated annual reconciliation and submission for the FCA, PPCA, and FOS, and annual calculated factors and request for confidential treatment. Through the June 16 motion, Luma submitted its proposed quarterly factors and revised versions for its yearly factors. Then on June 20, 2025, the Energy Bureau issued a resolution order through which it ordered LUMA representative and their consultants or consultants to attend this virtual technical conference scheduled today to provide an opportunity for clarification pertaining to the quarterly and yearly proposed factors filing. So the virtual technical conference will be mainly conducted in English and will be recorded in audio and video. Simultaneously, interpretation in both English and Spanish. Any person may speak in either Spanish or English as he or she prefers. A copy of the recording of this technical conference will be made part of this administrative file of this case. The Energy Bureau's consultant will be leading this technical conference. So let's now establish the instructions to be followed during the virtual technical conference. Before answering any question or addressing the Energy Bureau, all participants must identify themselves for the record by stating their full name and position in the company. Please keep your microphones muted while not answering questions or addressing the Energy Bureau to avoid disturbances due to background noise. Before addressing the Energy Bureau, please unmute your microphone and request the Energy Bureau approval to speak. So before commencing, is there any comments from any of the commissioners?
No comments.
No, thank
Okay.
you.
LUMA and consultants, are you ready?
Good morning, this is Jaira Rosa, legal representative for LUMA. Yes, we are ready.
Okay, so let's begin this virtual technical conference and ask our consultant, Ralph Smith, to take the lead. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ralph Smith. I'm with the firm Larkin & Associates, and we are consultants to the Energy Bureau. This morning, we expect to have technical questions for LUMA on a few subjects: the energy efficiency rider, the contribution in lieu of taxes or SILT, the FOS, and then the PPCA. So I think we'll start off with some questions we had about the energy efficiency factor, which was in the annual factors filing. LUMA had a file called Annual Reconciliation, SILT, and Subriders, May 2024 through April 2025. And on that file, there was a reconciliation showing the energy efficiency revenues and then the billed revenues. It's like that's what the basis for LUMA's reconciliation was. Not sure it'd be easier if somebody could pull that up on the screen and share it, or if LUMA can find that.
Just 1 second, Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith, sorry, if you can provide us with a couple of minutes so we can organize all the exhibits to present it to you in the order you will call them. I think that will be more efficient. So apologies, and just a couple of minutes. Thank you.
Okay, we can kind of like have a short break for you guys to look for what Mr. Smith is looking for. Let's all, how much do you need? Like 10 minutes, 5 minutes?
5 minutes is okay. Thank you.
Oh, okay, so let's come back at 10:17.
There it is. There it is.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
thanks.
Yeah, it looks like they have it already. Are we taking
Go
a
ahead,
break,
Ralph.
or since they have it on the screen, should we proceed?
No, proceed.
Yes, please proceed.
Okay. Yeah, the energy, there's a tab, called, there's a tab called Summary. Is that the tab that's showing? Summary.
I think it's the first one.
Yeah,
Well,
it's the
that's-
first tab. Summary starting on Excel lines 28 through 32. There we go. Okay, so what Luma has done, it looks like, is compared the monthly energy efficiency revenue that was forecast with the billed energy efficiency revenue and taken the differences between those two numbers for July of 2024 through April of 2025 and came up with a reconciling item of 1,047,000. And that's what Luma is requesting for the reconciliation amount for the energy efficiency rider. First of all, I just wanted to make sure that that's a correct understanding of what Luma has done.
Yes. Good morning. Yes, good morning.
We're getting feedback. Hello?
Yeah, I guess now that we have it up on the screen and I described what it appears that Luma's done, we'd like to make sure that that's a correct understanding on our part of what Luma's proposed for the energy efficiency reconciliation.
Yes, good morning.
You're having feedback and the camera's not working very either.
Yes, good morning. Es Jocelyn Estrada, yo soy la directora de Forecasting and Research para efectos de récord. The reconciliation of the energy efficiency was done according to the rate book, the tariff book. So the tariff book in the page, the energy efficiency rider, this one is the page 64 said that the prior period reconciliation is over recovered funds for the first 10 months of the current annual time period and the last 2 months of the prior time period. So it's according to the revenue, not the cost. So we just use the previous year forecast, the revenue forecast for the EE rider, and then compare the monthly basis for those 10 months with the actual of the observed revenues from the EE rider.
And why did Luma use the forecasted revenues instead of the actual costs for the reconciliation for this item?
If you go, as I mentioned, if you go over the tariff book, the page 54 said that is according to the recovered fund, not the cost, recovered funds.
Ms. Estrada, this is Commissioner Ramos. Are you referring to page 64, 64?
Yeah, 64 is over the EE, energy rider. If you go over the bottom, the prior period reconciliation.
I'm looking at a version here that says, it still says Autoridad de Energía Eléctrica on the top, but it does say on the reconciliation formula, it does say cost of program divided by, yeah. So it doesn't say forecasted.
The rider for the next year is the total cost of the EE program that must be the forecast for the next year. That is the forecast cost. In this case, we are forecasting 41 million plus the prior period reconciliation. And the prior period reconciliation, as defined in the bottom of this page, is under or over recovered fund for the 10 month. Is talking about recovery funds. That means that is revenue for, and if you go over the reconciliation, we just use the forecast fund that we budget last year for the EE program, and then we compare that with the actual revenues.
So what were the actual energy efficiency spending for the period July 2024 through April 2025?
So, Commissioner, the spending through May 31st was about 15 million.
The spending?
Yes.
Okay, where is that shown?
Could you state that again? I didn't catch it. I'm sorry.
The spending through May 31st is about $15 million.
What about for the period July 2024 through April of 2025? Does Luma have that amount?
I can, if you give me a minute, I can probably find it.
If I may add something to that, Ralph, this is Commissioner Ramos. The budget for fiscal year 2025 for the EE program.
¿Puede repetir la pregunta, por favor?
El señor Ralph Smith pregunta el gasto que hubo desde julio del 24 a abril del 25. Y yo a eso le añadí el presupuesto para el programa de eficiencia energética para el año fiscal corriente. Estamos buscando los budget to actuals esencialmente del programa en el año fiscal 25.
Does Luma have the actual spending for July
Yeah.
2024 to April 2025?
The actual spending was 13 million, and I'm looking for a budget amount. Apologies. The delay.
Okay, and is that shown in one of the tabs on this file or somewhere else in the filing?
The actual budget was 15.9 through April.
Did that budget include any unspent money from fiscal year 2024?
Yes, it included about 5.8 million that was rolled over from FY24 to FY25.
I'm sorry, how much?
5.8
million.
5.8.
Comisionado, que quería clarificar, la reconciliación lo que está incluyendo son los 13.7 millones que se supone que nosotros recuperemos a través del rider. Ese rollover no está incluido en esta reconciliación. Más bien, aquí está incluido todo lo relacionado al rider.
Sí.
Fueron 13.7 millones.
Sí. Sí, no, leí la hoja de tarifa bien y es un poco confusa porque arriba dice para calcular el factor del año que viene, pues sí dice costo, pero en realidad el costo proyectado pues es un forecast. En la parte de reconciliación habla de dinero recuperado. Se pudiese interpretar de cualquier manera.
Correcto. Nuestra interpretación fue que es el dinero presupuestado contra los recuperados. Y así fue que...
Sí. So, I'm sorry, changing back to Spanish from English. So you stated, Ms. Estrada, 13 million, which are the monies that we're supposed to recover in the 10 months that are on the reconciliation tab. Is that right? No, that's just 11. I'm sorry. So reconciling the 11, just the 10 months from fiscal year 2025. Okay. Sorry for interjecting, Ralph. You can proceed.
Oh, no, that helped clarify it. So is the actual spending for the EE program, is that shown on one of the Excel files that Luma filed? Because we weren't seeing that.
No, the costs were not included in our filing. So we can, eventually we can file the actual cost of the program.
Okay, I guess with
Pardon
the
me.
commission would like that information, I think it could be helpful.
Pardon me, Commissioner, for interrupting. We do file the actual cost of the program through the transition period plan quarterly filings.
Yeah.
So those are available.
That's up to third quarter, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, what docket are those filed in? It's the same docket number as this one, or is that in a different docket?
Docket number, it's
This is Commissioner Torres, MI
2022.
2022-0001.
It's a different docket, but it would be very beneficial if Luma could project the fourth quarter budget to actuals and specify how much of the budget was a rollover from last year.
Yep, those figures are available in the quarterly reports, but not the forecast for Q4. We'll be submitting the quarterly report for Q4 in August, but certainly can submit that information earlier if needed.
Yeah.
And for the forecasted fiscal year 2026 amount, it looks like Luma's requesting an amount of 41.194 million. That's from the 2026 revenue forecast file.
Yep. Yes.
Okay, what's the reason for the big increase from around 11.9 million up to the 41.2 million almost?
Sure, there are two main factors accounting for the increase. The first is the increase in the savings target from 0.25 to 0.5. So additional costs to acquire those kilowatt hours of savings. In addition, the cost per kilowatt hour has increased as well from an estimated 37 cents in FY25 to 0.49 cents per kilowatt hour of savings in terms of costs to acquire those kilowatt hours. That's primarily due to the market transformation in residential lighting. Lighting is one of the most cost-effective energy efficiency measures historically in utility energy efficiency programs. However, due to the efforts of utilities across the decades as well as federal standards, no inefficient bulbs can be sold in stores, and the majority of customers are buying LED. This is confirmed through additional surveys that we conducted with customers, as well as preliminary results shared by the Bureau of the Market Baseline and Potential Study for Energy Efficiency. So we have to resort to more expensive measures to meet our savings target.
Okay, before we move on to another subject, do any of the commissioners have any additional questions on the energy efficiency and the reconciliation?
I do. The rider was started on July 2024, and there's a marked difference between the monies that were billed to customers in that month. Order of magnitude third or fourth of what the other months were. Is there a particular reason for that?
Yo soy Estrada, directora de Forecasting and Research para el RICO, sí, comisionado. El primer mes tuvimos una situación con la configuración en CCMB. Se nos quedaron unas tarifas sin facturarle el rider. Este mes no fue facturado. Entonces comenzamos arreglamos inmediatamente el problema y ya usted ve que ya en agosto comenzamos a facturar correctamente.
Sí, sí. Ahora que usted lo menciona, como que me acuerdo de esa situación. I'll switch to English again. Don't you think reconciling $1 million when, given the fact that some people were charged that first month and some people weren't? Doesn't that put a burden, undue burden on somebody that already paid part of that? Kind of a philosophical question. If somebody wants to answer it, it's fine.
It looks like the first month, the lower revenues were due to the billing cycles that Luma uses.
Yeah. No, Ms. Estrada cleared it up. They had come that month, and I remember when she stated it that they had some issues with some of the tariffs, and some of them were billed and some of them weren't. The majority weren't. We can keep going, Ralph.
Okay.
We can talk about what I stated later.
Okay. I think that's all we had on the energy efficiency at this point. We did have some questions about the contribution in lieu of taxes, or SILT. We'll be referring to a different spreadsheet for that. The FY 2026 subsidies and subsidies forecast values Excel file.
Mr. Smith, this is Alejandro Figueroa, Chief Regulatory Officer for Luma. Just one, before we move on to the next topic, I just wanted to address Commissioner Ramos' statement quickly. We agree that that's a consequence of the billing challenges that we had identified earlier at the inception of the EE Rider. What we are attempting to do today is to simply collect a cost that was incurred and for billing limitations not properly recovered at that point in time. What you're mentioning is correct, and that is at the end of the day a policy determination that the commission has to make of whether it allows for that recovery or whether it does not. From our perspective, it's cost that was incurred in standing up and investing in the program, and to the extent that it's not recovered, then it's a cost. It's a cost incurred that we would have no mechanism to recover otherwise. But in terms of the impact to the limited number of customers that were in fact charged in that month, then yes, it's being recovered from those customers as well. But it's at the end of the day a determination that the commission or the bureau has to make as it evaluates the reconciliation.
Excellent. Thank you,
is Luma able to pull up the spreadsheet I mentioned?
I'm sorry, real quick. I think OIPC has a question.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. This is Attorney Pedro Vasquez on behalf of the ICPO. Just regarding the EE rider, like it was brought by Commissioner Ramos, I believe the decision was that that money could not be reconciled or could not be get back from the. It was made that error. I mean, it was just like that. So I don't know if this reconciliation does impact that money or that decision of the PREP that says that Luma could not recoup that money from the clients. Does it?
If I may, I think it's also important to keep in mind the impact of on individual customers. This was a roughly between 60 cents to $1 charge for that month. So while that represents a relatively small amount for particular individual customers, it is at the end of the day a larger cost that then we would not be recovering. So we recognize the impact of certain customers being charged that were charged originally being charged again, if you will, as part of the reconciliation. But I would caution against leaving costs that were incurred to the benefit of the program without being not being recovered.
Mr. Figueroa, you keep talking about incurred costs, but we're on the documents that we're looking at. It says it's forecasted revenues. That's why I asked that, and that's particularly why I asked, or specifically why I asked about the budget to actuals, and if Luma before the 1st of July could come up with, you know, budget to actuals and maybe projected up to June 30th of the cost of the program, we would essentially have a better idea of what our actual incurred costs. So we can prevent the incurred costs from not being recovered. Did that come out right?
Commissioner, what I'll mention. So understand it, and we'll take this guidance back and add it as part of our future filings. We were making this filing strictly based on our interpretation of what the how we're reading the tariff sheet. To the extent that there's changes to that I'm sure that the commission can take a position on those, and we will abide by that position. For purposes of the cost, we, as my colleague mentioned, we do file them with the most recent quarter. That's not BMBM file, but we do file them as part of the TPP docket. But we'll make sure that we incorporate this into our, in this case, a yearly reconciliation. We incorporate a budget to actual component so that you can assess. You can have the full picture, if you will, of the different inflows and outflows of the program. But with regards to the funding, I mean, monies have been spent in the program, and while we're reconciling forecasted revenue versus actual revenue, at the end of the day, that revenue is going to offset a cost that's been incurred, and we have incurred costs in that program.
Okay, I understand that.
Okay, anything else on energy efficiency at this point?
No.
Okay, our next topic is the contribution in lieu of taxes, or SILT. And we were referring to a spreadsheet called FY 2026 subsidies forecast values. Is Luma able to pull that one up and share it? Okay, that looks like the right one. Can we start with the tab that says silt cap?
Yeah.
Can we hear from somebody at Luma what the silt cap is for and how it's used?
The silk is set according to the Act 57 and then the Act 4 from 2016. So the municipalities have the cap according to the base consumption determined in 2014. And they must reduce 50% of their consumption by 2018. And then the energy of efficiency policy must change the cap. So we are using the same cap because this office, the energy efficiency office, they submit the same cap that we have since 2018. So that never changed. And the cap is according to the Act of regulation.
So, Mr. Smith, if I can summarize what my colleague mentioned, the cap sets the maximum amount of consumption for which a municipality can receive a credit under the silt structure, and consumption in excess of that amount then is billed at the applicable rates. And the cap does not include consumption that is otherwise ineligible for silt crediting. And there's a process established in the law and in regulations approved by the Energy Bureau to assess whether certain municipal facilities or other connection points are eligible or not for silt, and whether they add or not to the consumption cap.
Okay, can we focus on the biomone one? It looks like the cap is about 24.444 million kWh, and it has been for a number of years. So this represents the maximum amount of kilowatt hours that biomon would be entitled to under the silt. Is that a good understanding?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, then can we refer to one of the other tabs, the fiscal year FY 2026 kWh? And then can we go to that same municipality biomon? And it looks like that number showing for fiscal year 2026 is 26,009 and some odd kilowatt hours. So is the fiscal year 2026 amount the amount that LUMA used to get the silt dollar amount for Bayamon?
Mr. Smith, if you can just give us 1 second, we're validating the information.
Okay.
Yes, if you go over the file with the formulas, I don't know what happened over here, but if you go over the formulas, have the proportion. If you go over the tab consumption proportion, this one is the public file, but in the one that we share with the bureau with all the formulas, that the total of the proportion is 1, and we just applied the proportion to the cap, the seal cap. For some reason, I don't know why this total is different, because the formulas are the right one.
When we went to the silt cost tab, it looks like there were just amounts there and we weren't able to reproduce the calculations to get to the dollar amounts that are on the FY 2026 silt cost dollars tab.
For the version with all the formulas, and if you go, I can walk through what we did in the seal calculation. We just used the seal cap and distribute by month, and based on what you present before in the seal cap, and then we applied the cost based on the revenue forecast. And we provide the revenue forecast as well. So each municipality have different type of rates. So we apply the weighted average based on the rate that have all the municipalities. For example, if you go over San Juan, we know that San Juan have rate in the San Juan has GSS, GSP, and GST rates. So we apply the weighted average because this municipality have the 3 kind of rates. Same happened with the smaller municipalities. So we applied this weighted price according to the observed data and the rate that each municipality have.
Yeah, we weren't as concerned about the San Juan one because the San Juan fiscal year 2026 sales were less than the silt cap. But the Bayamon one, the 2026 sales were notably larger than the silt cap KWH amount. And we were trying to reproduce how LUMA derived the dollar amount of the silt for fiscal year 2026. In the silt cost tab, the 6.607,503. We wanted to basically try to reproduce that in order to either verify or not verify what KWH amounts were used for that particular one. That was one of several of them where the fiscal year 2026 sales were in excess of the silt cap amount shown on the other tab that we're looking at earlier.
As we explained before, we applied the proportion, and if you go over the file that have the formula, each municipality go to the silt cap that we determine in the silt cap. We don't know. I don't know what happened with the calculation, but the reference are good. So in the file.
Yes, Mr. Smith, and so I think what I think what we're saying is we recognize that there is an error in the allocation, the proportion allocation that led to a higher consumption above the cap. But with what Ms. Estrada is saying is in the calculation of the proposed reconciliation, the cap, the correct amount as a cap is the one that's being used. So we're not collecting the difference. That's just an error in the allocation here that we'll have to investigate and correct. But it should not be impacting the reconciliation calculation.
Okay, so it's being fixed in the reconciliation, but in the fiscal year 2026 silt cost, that could be overstated because of the allocation error. So in other words, for fiscal year 2026, you show 92,938,726 as the total silt cost.
Can give time to review the file, because as I mentioned, so the formulas are the right ones. So something is happening. So if you give me us some time to just review what we file and see where is the mistake is, because the formulas are over there. And yes, we are seeing that the cap is not the same that the distribution, the total distribute in the tab FY 2026, but we need to go over and see what happened.
Okay, so will LUMA be able to recalculate the dollar amounts on the silt cost, the FY 2026 silt cost dollars tab then? Because it looks like that Biomon was the one that had the biggest discrepancy, but there's several others where the silt cap KWH were lower than the fiscal year 2026 KWH sales forecast shown by LUMA.
Give us some time to just review the database, because something is wrong with the formula. So the formulas, I'm seeing right now the formulas and look good, but for some reason the total are not matching. So just the total of the consumption.
So
Okay.
Mr. Smith, one alternative could be that we switch to the confidential version of the spreadsheet so that we can go over the formulas with you and explain and maybe validate the issue with you.
Okay,
For that, we would then request that the transmission be suspended, given that it will go into some of the information that when we make this filing with the Energy Bureau, we do see confidential treatment for.
I don't think that's going to be necessary right now. I understand the issue. I saw what Ms. Estrada is referring to. There is a consumption proportion that has a total, the numbers that equal 1 at the end of the year, and I completely follow what she's saying. There's an issue with the formulas, but I don't think it's necessary for you to explain that part, especially change to a confidential hearing. So if we can, just Ralph, do you have any other? I mean, if any of the other commissioners wants to comment about that, but that's my position.
No, I agree. I just want to know if this is a significant impact and how much time does Jocelyn Estrada need to verify why the formula isn't getting the final numbers on track. And
that's fine. I was just offering that, but up to the Bureau, of course. Well, I'm assuming, and I'll let my colleague comment, but I assume that's something that we can have confirm or corrected for the Energy Bureau today.
Okay. Yeah. Do you have any other questions, Mr. Smith?
there were similar concerns with several of the other municipalities. We focused on Bayamon because that had the largest discrepancy, but comparing the silt cap amounts with LUMA's fiscal year 2026 KWH sales, we identified a total of 2,743,533 KWH, where the forecasted 2026 sales exceeded the silt cap amount by municipality. So we think this impact could be fairly significant on the fiscal year 2026 forecasted amount for the silt subsidy.
Okay, well.
Yeah, we weren't able to follow LUMA's calculations in sufficient detail to be able to try to reprice that, but it seems like it would behoove LUMA to correct whatever allocation errors and present an updated calculation.
Yeah, let's give
Alejandro, that would be for the end of today.
I compared, Mr. Smith, I compared the silt cap with the fiscal year 2026 distributions, and I had a total difference, a global difference of 653,781.
Yeah, we got that same difference, but the issue is where the municipalities, the individual municipalities, fiscal year 2026 sales forecast exceeds the silt cap for that particular municipality.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, if the fiscal year 2026 sales forecast for a particular municipality is below the silt cap, then that's not really an issue. It's only for those particular municipalities where the 2026 sales forecast exceeds the silt cap. It looks like in those instances, that's where the silt subsidy dollar amount could be overstated. And when we isolated to those particular municipalities, I got a total of 2,743,533. And we can share that with Luma if that'll be helpful. Which ones those are and how those differences add up to the amount I just mentioned.
So we'll defer to the direction of the Bureau, but we can look into that and then provide whatever corrections are needed and submit those to the Bureau today, or we can walk through with the Bureau and in a separate session walk through the calculation and make sure that we that we're all in aligned and that the calculations reflect the true consumption attributable to each municipality. So I'll defer to the Bureau on this, but this is something that we can either way resolve today without delay.
I would defer to our consultant. Ralph?
Yes, I think we'd like to have the correction if Luma can do it efficiently. Approximately what rate per kWh is being used for the silt? And it looks like it probably differs for each municipality depending on their mix. But I guess we could get a handle on the potential overstatement by multiplying a cents per kWh rate times the 2.763 million potentially overstated kWh that are over the silt cap for particular municipalities.
Again, we can do that. I mean, to the extent that we go through it and correct it, then there would be presumably no overstatement. So so I think we can go through that and validate the information and the formulas. But if again, we offer ourselves to and allocate time if you want to have a deeper discussion on that. But I think in terms of how to address the points that you raised in terms of the inconsistencies, we will address those and have them refiled today for the commission's or the Bureau's review.
Okay, appreciate that. I did have a question about some of the rates that were being applied. Let's see. Within the silt distribution by rates, there's a tab called silt distribution by rates, and they have various rates up at the top. 112, 211, 212, 213, and 711. We tried to look up those rates in the tariff and weren't finding them. It appears that some of them might be street lighting. Could somebody at Luma just tell us what those rates represent?
Yes, sir. The 112, that is GRS, 211 GSS, 212 GSP, 213 GSP, 711 gas agriculture is this one.
Okay. And on the silt distribution by rate tab, in the consumption by rate, what is that? Is that kWh?
Yes, sir.
Which one was that? I'm sorry.
There's a Excel columns C through G have consumption by rate by each of those rate classes. Are those figures stated in kilowatt hours?
Yes, sir. It's kWh.
Okay, and then the distribution of consumption by rate, those look like they're fractions of the total?
That is a proportion, yes, sir.
The proportions, okay. All right, and somewhere within this set of Excel files, does it show what those rates are? Is that on the public lighting tab?
I don't understand your question.
I believe, this is Commissioner Ramos, I believe that's in the fiscal year 2026 SIL cost tab. Was that what you're referring to? It has the GRS, GSS, GSP, GST, and gas. Ms. Estrada, could you state again the numbers? 112 is GRS?
212 is GSS. 211 is 211 is GSS. 212 is GSP. 213 is GST transmission. And then 711 is the gas. That is the
711. Okay.
Okay, that's helpful. Okay, I don't think we had anything else on the SILT. Before we move on, were there any other questions from commissioners about the SILT?
Yes, I did have a couple questions. I found a discrepancy between the forecast cost. In one of the files, it said 93 million, and the other one said 92,938. Considering that LUMA is going to revise the forecast, I'll just wait for their filing. I have a question though. Considering a possible rate increase, how would this affect the subsidy forecast, the cost for the SILT for next year? And perhaps, Mr. Figueroa, you could add to that filing possible scenarios of varying rates for next year and what that impact could be for this rider.
So that, just to restate the question in case I misunderstood something, you would like us to sort of give you a range of hypothetical rate increases and see then, so that we would be able to assess what would be the incremental cost that would otherwise have to be reconciled through the SILT rider in a future reconciliation, because that would be the difference between the rate that was forecast, the rate in place today, and what the rate would be after a determination by the Bureau on provisional or permanent rates is made.
Perfectly stated, Mr. Figueroa.
Okay, I guess that's something we could run. And is there any preference in terms of range of assumed rate increases?
No, I'll leave that to you.
Okay, we'll do our best to address that request.
Okay. I do have another question regarding the prior period reconciliation or adjustments for I'm in the annual reconciliation SILT and subsidies riders May 2024 to April 2025, revised from May 22nd, 2025. On the top, we have the SILT subsidies, and we have a column for each month and the monthly expense and the prior period adjustment, the cost to be recovered. essentially the prior period adjustment is a number that was determined by the Bureau last year, and LUMA divides that through the year depending on the consumption, right, of that month. The first 2 months, May 24 and June 24, are positive numbers. So essentially that year, back in June of 2024, we had this is the previous year. There was a revenue shortfall, and we're recuperating there, I believe, close to $1 million a month. And then from July on to April, the opposite. So we over recovered that fiscal year 2023. My question is there some reason why LUMA did not take into consideration those first 2 months? I have the total prior period reconciliation for fiscal year 2025 as 25,148,226. But LUMA in their filing left those first 2 months off and filed a prior period reconciliation of 27 million. Question mark, which is correct?
Mari, can you show?
Come again?
Good morning. Morning, everyone. This is Jose Gandia, Supervisor for Regulatory Reporting. You see here in this tab, these were the numbers of the prior period reconciliations as determined by the PREP the last 2 fiscal years. To the left, you see fiscal year 24, fiscal year 25. To determine the amounts that we distribute for each month, we use the forecasted consumption for the year. Use a weighted average. We spread it all over the fiscal year, and numbers for July should be consistent with the ones presented in the summary tab. And we don't have the 32 million because May and June have not been come past yet. So we use the first 10 months of the fiscal year from July to April, and the remaining months from the reconciliation that was pending. So that's the reason why we have a different number from the 32.
I'm sorry, from the 32? Well, I'm not following you.
Sí, comisionado. Para el año fiscal 25, la reconciliación de prior period de serie era 32.8 millones. Pero lo que estamos incluyendo en esta reconciliación para el 25, de julio
sí.
hasta...
No, ya te entendí. El 32 es el total del fiscal year 2024. Yes, but my point, I understand that. But my point is that LUMA, for some reason, did not take into account the last 2 months of the ones that we have on the screen now, May and June 2024, not the 900 something thousand figures there, they're on the table, but they're on the annual reconciliation. For some reason, they weren't taken into account. I'm just trying to verify that.
Okay. Me está diciendo, comisionado, que el número de mayo y junio no son los mismos que están en la otra.
No, eso no fue lo que yo dije. Yo lo que dije es que no los tomaron en consideración. No están el número que Luma utilizó para calcular el factor como prior period reconciliation. No toma en consideración, son 27 millones. 27.129.000. Estoy en el file Annual Reconciliation.
Correcto.
En el Summary tab.
Sí.
Ese mismo, dice esos 27 millones que aparecen en el total no están tomando en consideración los primeros 2 meses.
Muy bien. Sería entonces algo que hay que corregir, porque se supone que los incluya ciertamente.
Okay, entonces, right under that 27,000, the $10 million, could Luma explain what that adjustment is and how those adjustments are made?
Sí, comisionado. Jocelyn Estrada, para efectos de récord. Estos son los ajustes típicos que se dan a refacturaciones de periodos previos al año fiscal, en este caso 2025. Son refacturaciones que se hicieron desde el año fiscal 2021 por diferentes situaciones, estimaciones, etcétera. Adicional a eso, también nos percatamos de que no estábamos considerando la facturación mínima a ciertos clientes y también hicimos un restatement para considerar entonces la facturación mínima desde el 2021. Y de aquí que procede esos 10 millones. Ese cargo típicamente nosotros lo enviamos y como le indiqué, ¿verdad? Es simplemente producto de refacturaciones de periodos previos.
Ok, yo noto ahí que, como usted dice, tiene ajustes del 2021 al 2024 y todos se están adjudicando este año fiscal. Si vamos al año pasado, también había ajustes de esos años. Si mal no recuerdo, eran los mismos del 21. ¿Vislumbra que sigue habiendo ajustes así más en otro próximo año fiscal?
Nosotros vislumbramos que para los próximos años fiscales los ajustes van a ser mínimos. Como le indiqué, Luma estamos trabajando muy fuertemente con la facturación y en febrero pues hubo una refacturación sustancial a periodos previos. Nosotros no esperamos facturaciones masivas así tan sustancialmente eventualmente. No lo sé.
Y 2021 porque fue cuando empezó Luma.
Correcto, comisionado.
Okay. Para hacerlo, I'm sorry, I'll change back to English. The monthly expense for May 24 and June 24, is that somewhere in the filing? I understand it's on this table, these first two numbers up here, the cells C4 and D4. For all the other months, I understand that's from a prior fiscal year, but for all the other months, we have a table that details what that cost is, not for these 2 months. Is there somehow, perhaps that Luma could include that in a future filing?
Comisión, usted se refiere al costo de la CELI para mayo y para junio.
Sí.
Y
Porque
como,
¿usted cree que se puede poner en la tabla?
creo que sí, sí, cuente con eso, sí.
Igual que hay en el SILT Fiscal Year 2025, dejan mayo y junio en cero, pues tratar de añadirlo, aunque sea otro año fiscal, tratar de añadirlo ahí.
Cuente con eso, comisionado.
Gracias. Okay. I don't have anything else, Mr. Smith.
There were a few minor discrepancies noted for a couple of quarterly factors.
I'm sorry, Ralph. It's just someone came into my office. What was the last item for the housekeeping matters that Commissioner Ramos spoke with Jocelyn Estrada?
Okay, well, I asked Ms. Estrada or Luma, and she acknowledged to include the costs for the prior fiscal year, the last 2 months that remain unreconciled all the way to the next fiscal year, that she would include the costs on a future filing.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ralph. So sorry about that.
Oh, not a problem. There were a couple minor discrepancies noted with respect to the quarterly factors. I'm not sure we need to take up technical conference time to go for those. But one related to the PPCA NEPR period reconciliation. Minor discrepancy was noted in attachment 4, cell C17. And then in the FOS, it looks like some natural gas barrels that were used for temporary generation were not factored in. It looks like both of those had a very minor impact on the PPCA and the FOS factors. Again, I'm not sure we need to consume technical conference time to go over those items unless anybody wants to do that.
Commissioner and Mr. Smith, just a quick point of order. If we can have the topics that you expect to discuss, I just have people from different teams that we've made available for in case there's any questions covering all of the various topics. I know we've covered energy efficiency and silt. I wonder if you can let us know if you'll have questions on particular topics, so I know which teams we can be excused and which teams should remain to address further questions.
I think we're done with the annual factors, and I guess our inclination was, since these had such a minor impact, we didn't really need to keep people around to go over those two items. So in other words, I think we can wrap it up unless the Bureau thought it was worth probing into those two items further.
I actually have a question. It's more our, I guess, a calculation issue. On March 2025, the Bureau ordered Luma to recover $40 million through the FCA clause for a possible amendment to the Genera contract. And let me look for the file. Just for the record, when did Luma begin to recover those monies? Oh, we can see it here on the screen.
Confirming that it started. The adjusted factor came into effect in April.
Okay. And it was the order was for $40 million for next, which would be April, May, and June. So we're still in June. In this billing cycle, we're still recovering that. My question is, and more of a comment, really. Luma, in their prior period reconciliation, we could see here on the screen, as Luma filed $10 million as a cost for that reserve for March.
Where the cell that you're looking at?
Yeah, it's cell C14 on the.
Okay.
And that if we take that into consideration, it impacts the reconciliation for all those months. So my calculation is that it was $40 million for the prior quarter, April, May, and June. So that would be at a rate of $13,333,333.33 for those 3 months. So if there is any other reason why Luma did that.
Commissioner, we can confirm, but our understanding was that the collection would be at a rate of $10 million per month. Yes, and we are so, and we're looking at, this is the resolution from March 28th of 2025 on setting factors starting April, provided that it would be a $40 million reserve to be collected at a $10 million per month, at a rate of $10 million per month, and this would be page 8 of that resolution.
Estoy viendo la resolución y tienes razón, dice corresponde al periodo de marzo a junio, pero eso no, that does not change the fact that Luma started recovering it in March and June. In April, I'm sorry, in April.
Yes, you're right. A potential reading would be that this was assuming that the first payment related to that amendment would be made in March. So you would have to collect starting in April for a payment that was made, a disbursement made in March.
Yeah. So we're talking about the amount of money and the length of time that we're recovering it. So my observation still stands. It's not, we can't use that $10 million for March.
I'm sorry, what you say you can't use?
So we can't use $10 million as a cost for March and reconcile against that because that wasn't even a reality, wasn't an order in March. So we started, the order was recuperate the 40 million next quarter. And that affects, I'm saying that because it affects the bottom line on the reconciliation for each month.
Mitchell, you just give me 1 second to consult with my team here.
Okay, yeah.
Commissioner, we understand what you're saying. What we don't understand is when you say that it will have that we can the March reflecting it in March will have an impact on the bottom line because the way that we interpreted the order, we have to collect the 40 million, then keep it as a reserve. So, from our perspective, we're we're reflecting that collection at the $10 million pace, and once we get to the 40 million, then it'll be kept as a reserve in case until the Energy Bureau tells us otherwise.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but we're reconciling, and reconciliation implies the cost, the real cost versus what was recovered, correct? So if we're reconciling to be
yes,
I guess true to reconciliation, we should start inputting that in April. And it changes essentially it changes if you take out that March number and you put the rate at which it was calculated that it was going to be recovered during April, May, and June, it affects the total.
Correct, although in this case, we would not be proposing to reconcile the lack of an expenditure for March because it is not reconciling against an actual expenditure. It is meant to just create the reserve.
Mm-hmm.
So I think so. In other words, if we were tracking against actual disbursements made in March, then what you're stating would be correct, that we would have to credit those $10 million because they were not accounted for as they were not dispersed in that month. But since the directive to us was to maintain those as a reserve in the event of a future payment, then that's why they're just being reflected as the $40 million just being spread over those 4 months so that you can collect at the $10 million rate required as directed in the order.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Just to follow up on the commissioner's question about that item, was the 10 million collected for March? I thought the collection started in April. So there seems to be a bit of a mismatch.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at, Ralph.
Like on the
in the long run, so let's say when we reconcile the $10 million for June next quarter, it is the same thing, Mr. Figueroa. It is. But for the exercise that we're doing now, maybe not so much.
Yeah,
I have your point. Go ahead.
No, I guess what I was going to say is the way we interpreted the order is not that we collected the $10 million in March, but it's that we were to assume that we incurred the cost, or the system incurred the cost in March. So that meant that starting April, we would have to collect not only the $10 million for April, but also the assumed expenditure in March.
Yes, that would be a correct interpretation.
But of course, we would follow the Energy Bureau's guidelines on how to continue to treat that reserve.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I don't think we had anything else on our end. Did any of the commissioners have any additional questions for Luma?
I don't.
Actually, I do have a couple more questions regarding attachment 3. Is the there we go. So there is the possibility of temporary generation being put online in the system in the next couple of months. Has Luma been able to model? Has Luma received information from Genera regarding or PREPA regarding that possible temporary generation and what the impact on this PROMOD model would be? Question mark.
Commissioner, I'll let my colleague jump in quickly, but the answer is no, we do not have. We do not have particular information regarding the detailed costs that the temporary generation currently being procured by the 3 PPO on behalf of PREPA would entail on our generation assumptions. So we have not included that in either this filing or any potential filing that we would have to make in the near term to the Energy Bureau. So that's not something that we have accounted for.
Okay.
And we don't have the information to validate.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any additional comments or questions? Okay, then. Does anybody because I mean, there was a lot of technicalities involved. I don't know if Commissioner Torres or somebody can talk about the housekeeping matters.
Yes. Housekeeping matters. Number 1 is to verify the silt cap versus the fiscal year 2026 kilowatt hour distribution. That's number 1. Do we agree on that, Attorney Alejandro and Estrada?
Yes.
Okay. Number 2, I have the assumed rate increases requested by Commissioner Ramos.
Yes, understood.
Number 3, correct tab, PREP prior line 5, which the total doesn't include cell C5 or D5, which reflects the May 2024 and May and June 2024 prior period.
Yep, understood.
Okay. And then there was one between Ramos and Estrada, which I didn't understand so well, to complete the fiscal year, the remaining months of something. So if you could clarify that, Commissioner Ramos or Estrada.
Yeah, for the SILT, the file SILT FY and whatever fiscal year it is, that file includes the detail of the SELI cost and the consumption and all the details for that fiscal year from July to April, but it does not include the 2 months from the prior year. So and this doesn't have to be for this year, perhaps for next year. I was asking Luma to include those two months that were left behind on that SILT FY file.
Okay, so that's not needed for this filing that they're gonna do end of day today? It's for the
I don't
future.
need it. No, I don't really need it. I don't know if Ms. Estrada thinks that that's something that she could do for today. I'm okay with it.
Okay, so
it's
those
gonna
all,
it's gonna be for the next filing of the next year's annual subsidies. So we only have those three housekeeping matters. And I believe Attorney Alejandro said he would have it by the end of the day today.
We will make the adjustments and validations needed in the materials and then resubmit today, yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
so, okay then, so it's 11:48 a.m. and we are adjourning today's technical conference. Thank you everyone for your participation and have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.